But what I'm most concerned about is the United States always needs to have an enemy. And the United States always needs to spend money on its military defense and needs to get the warmongers and the weapon manufacturers wealthy. So literally, as soon as we might be seeing the end of the war in Ukraine, we're starting to see armed aggression against Venezuela. And, I'm not an expert there, but the playbook is very similar. The United States says there's an evil despot, whether it be in Afghanistan, Iraq, or Syria, or now Venezuela. They make up a lot of allegations and accusations about fentanyl production, cocaine production, sexual abuse. I don't know if any of it's true. And I don't know if Maduro, the president of Venezuela, stole the election, is a good guy or not. But what I do know is that the United States right now is using double standards when it comes towards trying to resolve what could be a legitimate problem in Venezuela, but they're using illegitimate meetings by bombing fishermen in Venezuela who they are accused of drug running. And importantly, it seems that the order was given to kill all of these Venezuelans and some Trinidadians, even after their boat was blown up and they were just floating in the water, not causing any type of risk to the United States. Now, it's very clear under American military law that you have to allow somebody to surrender. You have to give them quarter. You can't just kill them. And so I think it's really important that we have investigations into exactly what is happening in Venezuela and hold people accountable, whether that be Peter Hegsworth, the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War in the United States, the admirals who supposedly greenlit the attacks. Because I think it's important that if America wants to be considered the world leader, if you want to have a rules-based world order, if you want America to be the global hegemon, it can't have double standards. It can't have one set of standards for China and Iran, and then a different set of standards from the United States. If the US is murdering people, then American leaders who greenlit those attacks need to be held accountable. Because if they don't, then our adversaries and our enemies will say, well, the United States did this, we can do the exact same thing. Let's look at Gaza and let's look at Israel, right? Again, I'm Jewish, but I don't like what the IDF or Israeli government is doing by killing many innocent women and children and men in Gaza. If they kill anybody, they should be condemned and held accountable. Similarly, though, Hamas, I condemn them. If they are killing innocent people, if they're torturing innocent Israelis, and if they're raping anyone. I think what's clear is the world needs to have one set of laws, one set of standards that they apply to everybody. If you do something illegal, if you do something that hurts people, whether you're Israeli, whether you're Gazian, Palestinian, whether you're Chinese, or whether you're American, you have to be held accountable. You can't say the other side is a terrorist, which justifies your own terrorist actions, because then you're forever going to be in war. Frankly, it's very difficult for small nations to navigate and balance through the geopolitical tension between the United States and China. America always criticizes China for using economic coercion or bullying, right? If China isn't happy with another country, whether it be a larger country like Japan, a smaller country like Lithuania, or the Philippines or South Korea, China will use its economic heft, its economic strength to punish the other nation. They will say, we are going to cancel flights to Japan so that Chinese tourists can't spend the billions and billions a year there. We're not going to allow Japanese concert singers and performers to perform in China. And China uses their economic strength as a stick to punish other nations. But let's be honest, America, especially over the last year or two, is using as much economic coercion, if not more, than China. And they're actually going even more personal. America is saying to a lot of Latin American and Caribbean nations, basically essentially under a modern version of the Monroe Doctrine. And they're saying, if you don't heed American power, we're going to ban you from entering the United States, and we're going to seize your assets. And they're doing that to the president of Colombia. And they've threatened to do it to all of the nations and their officials. But they're going even farther than just saying the politician. They're saying we're going to ban the politician and their family, even their kids. And this is causing a lot of fear for a lot of these smaller nations because some of them only have a few 100,000 people. They only have 1 million or 2 million people. And their kids are actually now working in the United States. So one of the big criticisms I have of Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States, is he's undoing what I would consider to be law and also just morality. If you want to punish a government official, that's one thing, but you can't punish their family. The family didn't do anything wrong. And so it's vassalizing and bullying these smaller nations, frankly, in a way that China's never has done. China just says, I don't want to do business with you. So what should small countries do? Frankly, you have to make a choice. You have to either choose to go with the United States or go with China. It's almost impossible to be neutral. There are only maybe 2 countries in the world that have been able to be fairly neutral right now. New Zealand and Singapore. If I were advising their presidents or prime ministers, I would continue to try to be neutral and continue to do economic trade with China because China is an unstoppable economic force. China is going to continue to be the major growth driver of the world. I expect it to account for about 30% of economic growth over the next 5 years, and the IMF agrees with me. I expect that China will replace America in the next 15 to 20 years as the world's largest economy. But you have to try to maintain good relations with the United States too by placating them. But it's a very difficult dance to weave, frankly, right now for small countries. I miss the America of the 80s and the 90s. They were confident. They wanted China to grow to some extent. They wanted China to build the iPhones and the Nike shoes that Americans love. They hoped, frankly, that Chinese people would overthrow the Communist Party and become a liberal democracy. But I do think that, under the Clinton era and under the Bush era, America was fairly benevolent towards China and wanted China to grow. We've now reached the point where China is so powerful that America is at once scared and unconfident because of China's rise, but they're also sticking to this arrogance and aggressiveness of America being number one and the only power. And so they're creating a cycle of negative policies where they try to hurt China and create an enemy where I don't think there was one before. And you see younger Chinese, they don't really like America in the same way that Chinese in their 50s, 60s, and 70s like America. And that's a very dangerous situation for the world. America needs to allow and be gracious about China's rise. And then both countries can benefit economically. But if you don't have that, you're going to have a lot of tension that can only go wrong. What I'm hopeful of is that Trump and future presidents in the United States can be less warlike and aggressive when talking about China. And I think to Trump's credit, he actually has said Xi Jinping is a friend, China is a good country, we have good relations. He has been using a lot less aggressive and warlike words when it comes to China than Biden did, than Obama did. And to Trump's credit, I think he's trying to put the relationship back on course. I think his problem is he has a lot of war hawks and bigots around him, like Scotty Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, like Howie Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. So in many ways, I feel that Trump is sort of holding the dam of Sinophobia from spilling out everywhere. But again, it comes down to the problem of Trump lacking dignity and professionalism and using too many strong, craven words to describe the world. Hopefully, over the next 10, 20 years, we'll get calmer American politicians. If I ever run for president, which I'm thinking about doing, then yeah, I think we would get the relations good again. But unless you get someone like me who loves both countries, Unfortunately, I think we're going to have multi-decade Cold War.